recommendations for books and they're all nonfiction books, it honestly kind of makes me feel a little bit sad. Now nonfiction books certainly have their place, but it seems like we as a society are obsessed with nonfiction, especially self-help books, to the detriment of fiction books. I suppose the other thing that makes me kind of sad is that it's not just that they're usually all nonfiction books. Often most of them are self-help books too, so it's not even like a wide variety of nonfiction books. Different people have different tastes in fiction, so there isn't necessarily going to be like a one-size-fits-all solution. Yet it seems like we don't prioritize people reading fiction, good fiction, that is interesting to them. I think sometimes a story can convey a point better than just like in a straightforward, dry nonfiction way. And beyond that, reading fiction often makes you think, like it's a little more open-ended, or even if there's a point that the author wants to convey, you kind of have to think about it and get there. It's not just like someone telling you exactly what to think or telling you exactly what to do to succeed. Like you have to enter into like a conversation with the author in a sort of a unique way. I think that's a problem in our society. People have a lot of interest in knowledge, but not as much interest in wisdom. Or I don't know if that's fair. And then it seems like sometimes people don't have enough interest in even knowledge, let alone wisdom. But people are just trying to cram so much information into their head, yet they don't pause to think about what it really means or let it change them as a person. I guess it almost makes me think of From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, where Mrs. Frankweiler is like, sometimes you need to learn, but then sometimes you need to like, where Mrs. Frankweiler is like, some days you need to learn, and some days you need to learn a great deal, but other days you need to allow what you already know to well up inside of you, where the information you know kind of transforms you. And I feel like fiction can help encourage that. It can help you cultivate wisdom, where you have to really think about things and not just have the answer handed to you. And it's not just like, especially with self-help books that are popular, it's not just where you have like, where it seems like you're like studying for a test just to say the right answers. You have to like let the work speak to you. Obviously some fiction will do this more than others, but in general, but at least good fiction I feel like should somewhat challenge you as a person and help you grow and develop good internal qualities. And sometimes a book can interact with your life in a unique way, like it's the right book at the right time. I think a fiction book where you see a character overcome challenges can be a lot more inspiring than just like a self-help book by like a CEO or something. Like you can really see a character grow and develop as a person. It's not just about, obviously sometimes you want to be successful and of course that can be motivating, but it's about more than just like being successful, but it's about becoming like a well-rounded person. I feel like often fiction can probably even help you develop soft skills better than a lot of nonfiction or even self-help books. I mean, it depends on the book. But when you really see characters and their internal monologues, you can see when a character acts like insecure. You can see when a character's insecure but then comes off like kind of rude to others, where you can kind of use that knowledge in your own life with how you deal with people, being like, there might be more to them, or they might be acting this way because they're really insecure, where it's not about you, and it's really not even about the situation. It more has to do with them. And instead of getting like mad or frustrated, you can even have some compassion for them, or at least not take it too personally. Just like separate yourself, just like emotionally separate yourself from the situation, and seeing the internal thought processes of fictitious characters can kind of help you understand real people, so you kind of can just like interact better with people. I feel like reading fiction probably helps you develop a lot of soft skills better than self-help type of books. I mean, maybe it depends on the book, it depends on the person, but just in general. That's the thing, I feel like a good fiction book can kind of change you as a person or shed new light on things in your own life in a way that I feel like maybe some nonfiction books do, but most of the ones that are being recommended don't. And you can look back in history in the ways that like fiction books have changed people's thoughts about things. Like, you can look back at times in history where fiction books did more to change public opinion than all the political and other sort of debates that were going on. Like in the 1850s, there was a book that helped make a lot of like northerners, white northerners in the US, like more abolitionists and more anti-slavery than even just like other sorts of things. So it's like fiction can be powerful for changing the world and making the world a better place too. Now I feel like in those days there was a lot less, like, you know, obviously the internet didn't exist, and even things like movies didn't exist, so it was more limited, where I don't know that in this day and age, I don't think a fiction book or even a nonfiction book is going to have the same kind of effect, because things are so much more niche now, and there's so many various ways of like entertainment and media and information, but it just goes to show that fiction can be really powerful. Now the book in question is maybe a little bit problematic by modern standards, but it did help influence and change public opinion back in the 1850s in the US. So I'd like to see more recommendations of books people should read that should be fiction books. Maybe classic fiction books, but there are some good newer fiction books being published too. I feel like today a lot of books are being published and they're maybe not as good, or at least they're not going through as many like stages of the editing to make them as good as in the past. But good books are still being published, and there are so many books from decades ago or even the last couple of centuries that are really good. So I'd like to see more videos recommending fiction books for people to read. Or at least when there's a recommendation of books, the default isn't nonfiction, particularly self-help, where at least maybe there are some nonfiction books in there, but there's some fiction books in there too. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the topic. I guess the question I'll leave in the comments is, what's a fiction book that's like really changed you or helped you grow as a person? Or just a fiction book that's been really meaningful in your life? I guess leave your answer below in the comments.